If you don't like your job, quit. If there's something more exciting or something that's going to light your fire in a different way, go do it instead. I'm a lifelong continual learner. I love to learn new things. It's always really been, how do I just level up from here? Because mom needs a refuel, right? Yeah. And they get that too, because it's like, I cannot pour into your cup if mine's empty. You don't have to always look 2 years out. You don't always have to look 10 years out. And it's not even a day at a time. It's 1 foot in front of the other. If you just keep putting 1 foot in front of the other, you will get where you're going.
Welcome to the Living Richly podcast. Super excited today as we have a special guest. We have Tiffani Westerman with us.
Hey, team.
Thanks for being here.
Oh, good to have you here.
Tiffani, CEO of Wesley, Clover Services, mom of 2 amazing boys. I can say that. I'll tell you why later. Daughter, sister, so many things. Super excited to get into it and learn more about you. So
thank you. Happy to be here.
Yeah, I'm. So I hear there's a bit of a story between the two of you. I'm hoping today's interview goes better than the first time Kate interviewed you, and you didn't get the job.
Yes.
So for our listeners, when Tiffani and I were chatting before the show, Tiffani and our oldest sons have been friends since grade school. So we know each other and have known each other for a while because they're about to go in their last year of high school. And we were chatting before the show. And Tiffani's like, yeah, you remember when you interviewed me? And I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, yeah, at Macmillan at the ad agency. I'm like, no. I'm like, and she's like, and you didn't hire me.
It had to come up. It had to come up, right?
You had to work through it.
Because you're going to interview me again. So it's like, well, now, be a little nice.
Yeah. And had I only known that, now winner of 40 under 40, congratulations.
Yeah, congratulations. That's a huge milestone.
Huge accomplishment for our sort of Ottawa folks. Big accomplishment being recognized as one of the top leaders. I think it dives into all kinds of, I don't know all the criteria, but business criteria, leadership, community. So congratulations, massive.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
How does it feel? Did you ever think you'd be here on a podcast talking about how it feels to be, nominated and now winning for 40 under 40?
I'll say yes, actually. Maybe not on this podcast with you.
That's a weird turn.
It is a weird turn, but I'm excited about it, and I'm excited about this for you. But 40 under 40 was a goal of mine 8 years ago.
Wow.
Whoa. When I was either a technical recruiter or an operations manager in my first tech job. And I learned or heard about 40 under 40 and was like, it'd be really cool to do that. Knew it was a massive stretch with 8 years left in a new industry, but it was something that I really set my heart on and was, I say I squeaked in my final hour at 39 years old.
Well done.
And to be fair, they do put you through a pretty rigorous ringer to be someone who receives this award. And I wouldn't have said I was ready any earlier. So I really did kind of squeak in. Wow. But I really hoped 8 years ago that I'd get this award.
Yeah, that's
great
amazing.
Accomplishment.
That's amazing. You talk a little bit about that path on getting there, and that path to leadership is never a straight one. And I think for women, it can show up sometimes differently too. So what's that been like for you, that journey?
Definitely not a straight and narrow journey. Yeah. That's for sure. I've done a lot of things. And I think that for me, I didn't really know what that end goal was. And I wouldn't always even say that end goal was becoming a CEO. It was really just always the next big thing. What was going to challenge me? What was I going to learn from? I say I'm a lifelong continual learner. I love to learn new things. When I hear someone talking about something I don't know, I'm like immediately sort of attached to it on what can I take from this? And so it's always really been, how do I just level up from here? And that has definitely, done a lot of this. I've been in the fitness industry. I've been self-employed. I've been in the tech industry. I've, done business operations, technical recruiting. I've been a product manager. I've built applications. I've done a lot of things, and for me, I would say it was never a pursuit of where I landed today. It was a pursuit of just something kind of bigger and better than what I felt I was doing at the time. And how do I learn something new?
Yeah.
And I'm still not done.
Right. 40 under 40 is not the end.
Yeah,
right?
that's right. We're talking
Next
about end now.
chapter. Exactly. But it's so fascinating to me because some leaders sort of like map out their journey, right? They have a very clear, I mean, you had a very clear path to 40 under 40. That was a very clear goal. But it sounds like your journey's been more guided by your values than it has been by a clear map of the future. Your curiosity, your love of learning, of challenging yourself has just kept you on this path of discovering the next big thing.
Absolutely. And there's one thing that I've said a lot, and I say to a lot of people still today, if you don't like your job, quit. And that's something I hold as probably one of my number one values when it comes to my career is that, you know, if there's something more exciting or something that's going to light your fire in a different way, go do it instead.
Love that.
And I really believe that it's the best for you and whoever your employer is at the time. It's, you know, really just go chase something that, you know, we've all heard it, right? You'll never work a day in your life if you like what you do.
Yeah.
And I really just fundamentally believe that. And it's come every time I've made that decision and been like, you know, I'm in a really good place, but I'm going to try something else. It's always been something that just felt good and felt right. And I still hold that today.
I love that. I mean, I think that's at the core of
that embodies you.
I mean, like, I'm like, I hear all of that. But yeah, I think a lot of entrepreneurs are like that. I think it's sort of, you know, do what you want and go after your heart. And I think, I mean, the joke in my family, you hear it all the time, is like, how long are you going to stay at this job? And I'm like, it's really like, okay, but like, I'm like, for me, if I'm not happy, why am I staying? Why am I staying? It's not good for me. It's not good for my soul. It's not good for my employer either.
Right.
They could find someone that's happier in that role. So I applaud that. And I also relate to it.
100%. I mean,
Big time.
because fear is a thing. Let's face it. So many people stay in jobs they're unhappy in, careers are unhappy. And I've had so many conversations with leaders that their only goal is their pension. And they're miserable every day. They hate their job. They loathe it. They're not happy, but they're like hanging on to this future state where they're going to get the golden handshake or parachute or whatever you want to call it. But in the meantime, they're unhappy, and that bleeds into their family life. It bleeds into everything. But the fear of leaving, right, the safety nest, like obviously that's not been something that. How have you dealt with fear as it's shown up along the way?
I think that really plays in for me to the fear of change, right? Is that I've done a lot of work on myself and in my career in change management. And I think it really comes down to, if you feel that stuck, it's actually not, you know, that you need to stay. It's that you're afraid to change or you're afraid of what comes next. And so I sort of adopted years ago, I love to fail and I love change. If it scares me, I'm going to do it. And I've built enough confidence, I would say now, to know that I usually will land on my feet. But I walk into that fear just knowing that eventually you get out the other side. And I think that ultimately, you know, you just can't be afraid. You really have to take that as change management. It's a mindset. You can do it. You can learn new things. You can try new things. You know, there's a girl I work with. She's going to love this. But when I interviewed her, she said something to me that was so awesome. She was coming into tech for the first time. And I said to her, do you think you can pick this up? You think you can take on that learning curve? And she says, how hard can it be? And she goes, I mean, if you asked me if I could be a neuroscientist, I'd tell you, how hard could it be? and I immediately loved her. I was like, yes,
I
right?
love that.
Like,
what a great attitude.
Sure.
Yeah.
She got to go back to school for about 8 more years, but you can probably do it if you really put your mind to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Living Richly is all about the podcast, and really what we're trying to do is to help people live on purpose. So for you, you know, in this role, what gets you excited? What like drives you? What is that passion that fuels you? Because as you talk about it, you clearly are really enjoying what you're doing.
Yeah. And I hope to, you know, probably plays into that. I hope to always enjoy what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And this role for me I've said to a lot of people, I've been in the role of a CEO for 2 years now. I will not say it's easy. I will not.
Right.
I say I'm taking an MBA on steroids. You know, I'm drinking from a fire hose half the time.
Yes.
But again, to sort of my core of continual learning, I am learning so much in this role that I probably didn't realize there was so much I didn't know when I stepped into it. And so it's, you know, again, as long as I'm learning in this space and as long as I wake up every day and I really, maybe not every day, but most days, and love what I'm doing, you know, we all have hard days. That for me will be, you know, I will sit in the seat. And when the day comes that it doesn't, I will probably do something else.
Yeah, I love that. They talk a lot about the fixed mindset versus the growth mindset. And the fixed mindset often is a person who doesn't want to put themselves into a new situation because it makes them feel uncomfortable, makes them feel incompetent, right? You talk about you step into this CEO role and all of a sudden you go, oh.
It was a no.
What the fuck, right? Like there's all this stuff you don't know. Yeah. And a lot of folks don't want to put themselves in that situation, again, because of the fear of failure, the fear of looking foolish, the fear of all kinds of hesitation. But a growth mindset actually seeks out opportunities to keep expanding, right? Like one's view of the world and one's not. What have been a couple of the biggest lessons you've learned in your CEO journey?
This one's been probably the biggest lessons, honestly. And it's really just the things that even operating at a VP level in a company that you don't realize are there, you know? And one of the biggest things that someone told me when I took on this job is that it is your job to hold the stress of the business and not allow the business to ever feel it. And that, I would say, is probably one of the hardest parts for me. I'm a very transparent person. You know, if I'm having a bad day, you're going to know I'm having a bad day. If I have a problem, you're going to know I have a problem. And so to, you know, carry some of those stresses or burdens and show up and be like, it's fine, you know, is probably the hardest part for me. Yet, because it felt a little like I was no longer being my authentic self, but instead it's like I'm actually doing this to allow that burden to not be on anyone else and let them do their job functions appropriately. And it's my job to handle them, right? It's like if we all came in and aired the grievances of our jobs, we'd all have, you know, probably some pretty horrible days.
Yeah. Exactly.
So that one's probably been my biggest lesson learned. And then really I would say it comes down to leadership and I know we're going to get into a little bit of leadership, but that's been probably for me the hardest part of my job always to learn is my new role in that leadership position and really what that means to the people that I work with.
Yeah. Love that.
Yeah. What are, maybe as we're talking about leadership, talk about from your lens, like, what are you learning about your leadership style? What are you learning, the things you love, or what is changing as you're in this role and you're in a different leadership role? It's a different leading style.
Yeah. Well, so I've gone, you know, it's interesting because in the beginning of my career, I based success off of how many people I managed, right? It's like, if I only manage 3 people, I want to manage 40, right? It's like you want to, you know, and
then you manage 40 and say, can I go back to 3, please?
Totally.
I actually did. I went back and was like, okay, scratch that. So I think for sure a lesson learned for me was in the beginning, honestly, I ended up managing a team of about 30 people and quickly realized I didn't love it. And it was because it took away, I love to be, I'm that to-do list person. I check it all off at the end of the day. That's my feel good. And I turned into just managing people. I also think I pick up a little bit of how people are feeling. And so it became a really heavy job for me. And I really struggled with that for a while when it was like, well, you know, maybe I'm just not meant to be a leader. Maybe I'm just meant to be, you know, the quote unquote individual contributor. You know, take me back there.
That's great. I'm going to use that.
And so I did actually move into a different role at that time. I moved into VP of Strategy and Alliances. And I went from leading that team to leading 5. And I was like, this is much more comfortable for me. And I think I struggled with that for a while. I'm like, why am I so, to me, we're all our own biggest critics, right? Why am I so bad at managing and leading people? And really, I get so narrow focused on what I'm doing that I'll just kind of go, like I say, like a train. And the human element for me didn't come naturally. As much as, you know, I'm a charismatic person, I get along with, you know, most people that I meet. Why is it such a struggle at work? And it's those social cues of, you know, hey, Kate's having a bad day. Maybe you should pick up on that and go chat with her, you know? And I'm just like, Kate, let's go. You know?
That report's still due by 3
Well,
p.m.
right. Like, come on, you know, and it's like, wow, you know, someone will be like, Tiffani, like Kate hasn't been herself in 3 days. And I'm like, okay. And so, yeah, leadership's been an interesting journey for me. And I do think now I'm learning to understand that I've had to put the work in on the human side, really to be able to pick up some of those cues and understand when someone needs support or is struggling. Really, you know, scheduling things a little better on actual, you know, touch points. But my job in learning a new role has always been fairly easy. It's really been the leadership part that for me has been a journey. And you know, a good one, because it teaches you a lot about yourself to have to really look at, why is something that should be the natural?
Yeah.
That is so hard.
Right.
Yeah. And yet, over here on the things that people would call the hard part.
Yeah.
We're
well, you can't be good at everything all the time. Like, it's impossible, right? Like, so there's parts, and I think every leader is like, okay, I'm great here, but wow, like here I got some growth, right? That's what makes you a good leader, is that you're even identifying those areas and seeking out that growth.
Yeah, and I've had conversations. I mean, I'm an executive coach and leadership coach. I've had now conversations with thousands of leaders, and what you just shared is so common, right? Mm-hmm. It's almost become a running joke that leadership would be easy if it wasn't for the people, right?
I love that.
The people part of leadership is really where you're going to run into. I think as a leader, you're going to run into imposter syndrome more often than any other part of your job, because most successful leaders doesn't take them long to come up to speed on process, product, right? Like the business mechanics of it all is usually the easier part. Yeah. But the people side is difficult. And I've heard it said before that just because someone carries it well doesn't mean it's not heavy, right? And I think leaders carry a heavy burden. How you talked about the inner critic just a moment ago, and we are our own worst critic for sure.
Yes.
What's that journey been like for you, and how has perhaps your internal language shifted over time?
Yeah, it's I would tie the inner critic to what you just mentioned, imposter syndrome, right? And for me, I joke with my friends that I live in imposter syndrome continuously. Yeah. And it's really, I think, just a byproduct of the career that I've had. I've moved quickly. I've changed roles fast. I put my hand up for roles that I was underqualified for and said, give me 6 months to certify and learn and see if I can pull this off. And so I really have always lived a couple steps ahead of where I was qualified to be as far as my career, and been challenged to rise to the occasion. So in the beginning, I found imposter syndrome really, it was heavy with me. It was really heavy and really needing to own that I am learning in this role. And so it was hard, because in the beginning I was like, should I even be here? Right? Like, is this really for me? Like, what am I doing? And now I've gotten comfortable with it, that I can still acknowledge that I'm my own biggest critic, that sometimes I'm, beating myself up on things that maybe other people aren't even noticing.
Yeah.
Right.
But I've gotten comfortable with being the imposter.
Right.
Well, that's,
what is it? The whole, we're all imposters, just own that shit. Right.
That's right.
Like, just, exactly. Own it. But on that, feeling that imposter syndrome, I would imagine being a female CEO in tech comes with that, right? Like, that's a part of it. Can you walk us through, does it show up differently? It is a male, heavy male dominated industry. And how have you dealt with maybe some of those perceptions that other people have with you as a female CEO? Or does it come up even? I'd love to.
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes up a lot because of the push for more women in tech.
Yeah.
Right. Is that I do, and I'm lucky to be one of those women that they put out there to say, you can do this. Right. Yeah. And so it comes up in that sense. I would honestly say I've been really lucky in my own career to be surrounded by a lot of men in tech who have been my biggest supporters. All of my career mentors are men. And so I feel, and I will not say that that's everybody's experience.
Sure,
I do think that, not a lot of women have the opportunity to grow like I did, or have the support that I had.
Yeah.
But for me, I think that, I got a little lucky with the people I ended up working with, and people who saw that I had this passion for growth and, wanted to learn, and really sort of promoted my ability to do that, and taught me, the wildest things. I'll tell you, my first role in tech, I'm going to expose myself hard here. But
we can take it out and post after if you want to.
No, but there's a in the cloud orchestration called Kubernetes. And in my first year, I carried around a notebook and I wrote down everything that someone said that I didn't know what it meant. And I'd go home and Google it and try to learn it. And I went back the next day to my CTO at the time, and I was like, I'm guessing Kubernetes is not a vacuum. He's like, let's get in the boardroom, and he would take me in the boardroom and sketch it out and show me exactly what it meant and how it worked. And, so I feel really lucky to have been surrounded by in my own network, people that really lifted me up. And I am proud today to show other women that they can get here. But even more importantly, women who didn't have a tech background. I didn't go to school for computer science. Right. It was, you can still change industries. You can still learn these things. And so I hope to give women the hope that, get in here and just give it a go.
Yeah. You touched on, and I'd love you to talk more about sort of how you stepped into roles and sort of how you moved, because I really want women to hear it, because I often think women don't take the approach you took to getting promoted. So maybe tell some of that, because I think it's super powerful.
Yeah. So I'll start it with, the answer is always no if you don't ask, right? And so the first career that I took in tech, I took a step back in my career, pay cut, all the things. I just wanted to get into the tech industry. I knew that it was something that was it was just watching that innovation boom was exciting to me. And I wanted to, somehow get in there. So I did. But I knew immediately that I needed to grow, right? It was, I went backwards. I need to at least get back to, where I was. And so I was hired as a technical recruiter. And your girl in HR is an interesting dynamic. But, loved pitching the company to people, loved, offering people jobs, right? That's a feel good at the end of the day. And we had, again, a startup, we had a product that we were building. And at the time there was a product owner who quit. And the day that they quit, I heard that they quit, and I walked into our CEO's office and I was like, I want to do it. And he's like, well, what do you, I love that you want to do it, but there's certifications for this. Like, people have done, they've done these things. And so actually I found a product owner certification course that was at the Holiday Inn in Canada, and I took it that weekend.
Wow.
And I showed up on Monday and I was like, I am a certified product owner. I haven't done it a day in my life, but give me 6 months. I said, give me 6 months. If I cannot do this in 6 months, I will help you hire the job. I will even, still support my current role, but I want to try this so bad. I was so interested in what the product was. And so he said, okay, you have 4 months.
Wow.
And I did it. And really, that's how every job after that went. It went from, product owner to product manager to VP of product development to VP of strategy and alliance. After VP of product development, he kind of left me alone and allowed me to, But every time before that, it really was me walking in and putting my hand up and saying, give me 6 months.
So I love that, because women generally don't ask, right? We don't, look at all the research on why women, there's the pay gap, right? A lot of research shows that women just don't ask for what they want. They don't, whether they lack the confidence, whatever that is. I'm not going to psychoanalyze all that today, but there is, I just think it's so important that women hear that you can go after what you want. You have a voice. There's nothing stopping you from really asking for what you want.
100%.
So do you encourage that in your people? I'm curious to know how that kind of shows up now for you. Are you encouraging that, like the voice in the room?
100%. Yeah. And I don't ever put people in a box of the role they're in. And I think that really comes from my own career. Is it's, if you're in marketing and you want to become operations of product, sure. If you're in sales and you want to, sure. It's really, for me, you look at someone's core capabilities. Are they can they roll up their sleeves? Can they learn things quickly? Can they pick it up? Go. Who am I to tell you no?
But I absolutely love that, because the vast majority of people are waiting. Yeah. They're just waiting for something. They're waiting for the right opportunity. They're waiting for that promotion. They're waiting for that next relationship. They're waiting for something to fall into their lap. And the reality is, the people that live a full life, a purposeful life, are creating their lives. They're choosing as opposed to coasting, deciding as opposed to drifting. And it sounds like, that's been your modus operandi. Like, that's what's been driving your journey. And I commend you for it. Because again, I think a lot of folks, the safety of the comfort zone, we're so afraid to leave that zone.
100%.
And yet in that zone, there's nothing but media. There is safety and there is comfort. And there are times we need to retreat to it to recharge. But to live there means mediocrity, means living unfulfilled, and the rest of it, right? So I love that. The fact that you went after it and you put yourself out there. Like, talk about not just waiting, but hey, give me the job. And if I can't do it, I'll step down after it's done, or this trial period.
Yeah.
That's right. It's interesting to hear you say that, because I think about it. I'm like, has anything that's happened to me in my career come to me? And I think the answer is no.
No.
Right.
That doesn't surprise me.
It has not.
Yeah.
That doesn't surprise me at all. I will, super curious. We know each other. So how does that CEO role, how you are in your career, show up with your boys? Is there mom Tiffany? Is there do they kind of bleed into each other?
Do you get performance reviews?
My boys are my absolute biggest fans. And, I joke and say my kids were raised in a startup, and that's because they were little when I started this journey, and they're 17 and 11 today. And before I even stepped into this role, the last company I was in, we exited, and I took the summer off and I took a road trip with my kids. And that road trip was dedicated to talking to them about whether or not they wanted me to take this role and what that would mean. My son, our sons are going away to school next year, right? It's like, am I really going to pour this all out there at a time where, my boy's about to take off? And one thing that made me really proud on that road trip was that they really are my biggest fans. And I do believe that I have taught them that a woman in leadership is normal.
Right.
It's like, I'm choking up a little bit saying that. But it's like my older one now realizes hey, mom's a badass.
Yeah.
Most of my friends' moms aren't doing this.
My son knows it.
But my little guy, I don't think he knows yet, right? Because they've just always known mom is a go-getter. And, I'm a big advocate of, we talk about work-life balance, which I'm with you. I don't love.
Yeah.
But what I do love is a work-life blend.
Yes.
I believe that they just have to coexist. And that's always been something that with my kids, it's like we rock a schedule pretty tight.
Yeah.
There's nights where my son came home yesterday. He's like, Mom, I got a classroom showcase on the... Absolutely. It's going in the calendar. I will not be there ever. It's like, we're going to show up for you. And so I think for them, what I love is that I'm teaching them that you can do both.
Yeah.
But you have to get up every day and keep going.
Yeah.
And some days are harder than others.
Yeah.
There is no.
Yeah.
It's whether or not you're willing to put in the work to get it.
Yeah.
And I'll let you know. Check back in a couple of years on how that goes.
How that's going. But it's like so many people have bought into this notion that it's either go for the dream or be a family-oriented person. That you can't have both. And I love how you use the word blend instead of balance, because the work-life balance to me is a misnomer. We're setting ourselves up for an impossible feat. Who can ever balance those two things perfectly? I always get this image of some guy walking across Niagara Falls on a high wire, right? And one false move and he's going to fall to his death. I use the term work-life harmony. Right. It's like an orchestra. Sometimes some instruments are playing more prominently. Others are quiet. Right. You're not everything's equal or even balanced, but it creates this wonderful music. And I think when we're paying attention to the things that really matter to us, we can be mindful of where do I need to invest more time right now? Do I need to lean more this way or more that way? But I think the chase, it's like chasing the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. This work-life balance is bullshit.
Yeah. And I love that you have those family conversations, because I do that too in my house, right? When we went to buy my single family home after the divorce, this money doesn't grow on trees. I can't believe I just said that. I can't believe I just said that. I'm not saying that anymore.
You're just channeling your mother.
I know. Oh, I can hear her in my head. But I remember sitting the kids down and I'm like, okay, if we buy this house, here's what comes with that. This is no vacation this year. This is and I'm like, if this is a decision we make together, and they were young, I'm like, this is a family commitment to the next few years and what they're going to look like. And I think having those conversations, my parents' generation, we weren't involved in any decision, you were affected by them and not involved. So I think I love that you kind of take that approach with your kids too, and have those conversations, because it does affect the whole family.
Yeah.
Your journey.
Yeah. And I do believe that's so important to do that with your kids. It's really, I've treated my kids like, I'll say adults delicately, but because of the honesty of the conversations we're having always. And I do think that again, I've gone through a separation with my kids, and, is seeing that with my friends growing up, the impact, like you said, they make these decisions that impact you, but you didn't really get to be part of that decision or really get a full, honest conversation about it. And I do believe that it allows any of this change to be a lot more tolerable for them, right? And for them to be like, okay, and I can say, hey, remember when I told you mom was going to be rocking busy, or she had to travel a little more than usual? And they're like, oh, yeah, we talked about it, but we'll always show up. And when talking about the work-life balance, right, I always think of the balance beam. And it's like, when can you ever throw something on either side and it not just go like this?
Exactly.
Right? And if that's what you try to do, I really do believe that you live in this constant state of trying to find center and never being able to successfully.
100%.
Yeah. Another one that's very similar to that is when we talk about time management. Now, talk about another misnomer, right? Because since our conversation started on today here on the show, 30 minutes has passed and none of us was able to manage that 30 minutes. It just passed all on its own. We don't get to manage time. Time just is a thing that we all have to deal and do our best with. But it's about priority management. It's about prioritizing what's important to us and making sure those things happen. But again, when we set ourselves up with these false notions of I'm so bad at time management, I tell people, of course you are. We all are.
Especially if you admit it.
Right?
Well, there you go.
But it's about, let's get clear on what really matters to us, what really matters to you, what are the big rocks, and then setting those priorities and managing those within time as opposed to trying to manage time itself, especially as a parent with kids.
Well, and they're busy and they have their own lives too. So along the way, I'm assuming some challenges.
No, I think it's been challenging.
So easy.
Maybe touch on some personal, professional, just share with us some of the challenges you face and kind of how you've dealt with those.
Yeah. So I'll start professionally. So professionally, I would say the hardest thing that I've ever gone through professionally was what COVID did to businesses, right? So at the time, we were on the brink of, probably thinking about exiting the company. We lost 80% of our contracts in 1 month.
Oh, wow.
And we had to meet literally every morning on like, what are we doing here? Do we have to, reduce the size of the company? Do we have to, our CEO at the time, I don't think he slept for days because he just refused to watch this fall apart. Right. We ended up a year later growing the company by 200% and exiting it during COVID.
Wow. Congratulations.
I do. Yeah. I give it to our CEO in sales. I got to give him that. But going through that was such a ride that it was like, especially at the time that we're all home, nobody's mental health is great. Like we're all struggling, watching our kids go gray because they just, lost everything. So
we forget, right? Like we forget the palpable fear of those early months of COVID when it first landed here. Nobody really knew what it was. We didn't know what the impact was going to be on our families, on our lives, on our businesses. I mean, we were dealing with leaders in crisis for, I think it was from March till September. I remember saying to my business partners in September, are you guys tired? And we realized we've been dealing with leaders in crisis for months and months and months. Right?
And it was. And it just feels like it's both sides at that point. Right? Again, no balance.
Zero.
And
zero harmony. As well, right?
And so, I mean, luckily we were able to come out of that on a high. We exited the company, I think it was February, March of 2022.
Wow.
And then stepped into this role. And so I would say I was cloud nine, it was like I had finally gotten to where I thought I wanted to be. Right. And then to, on the more personal side of the personal struggle is I lost my brother in September of last year. After he had stage 4 cancer and was given 6 months. He made it about 2.5 years. So we did get, more time than we probably should have, but that kicked the knees out from behind me, and I
can only imagine.
And it's amazing to watch, again, the impact it has on both sides, right? The blend. There's no leaving that at home and going, And so it really, I think honestly has changed me, not just as a person, but also as a leader and even as a CEO. To be fair, it's made me reflect on a lot of things, on decisions you make, on where you spend your time. And, you know, the bad side of that is I had a YOLO mentality going before that.
Yeah.
Now I really have one, right? It's like my brother was 41 years old.
Wow.
It's like, you don't know if you're getting 101 or you're getting 41. Right. And so it's made me very, very aware of what am I doing every day?
Yeah.
And is it what I want to be doing? Is it where my time should be? Is it what lights my fire? And if it's not,
yeah, and that's one of the many gifts, right? That your grief and your loss has given you is this appreciation for the moment. Like all we are guaranteed is right now, and living in that is a powerful thing because most of us are either stuck ruminating over our past or obsessing about our future, and we're not here. We're not here right now doing what we love, right?
Yeah. So how do you refuel? Like the who, the what, like what gives you that fuel back after, you know, a long week, whatever?
I party.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, you know, I do travel a lot for work. I travel a lot with my kids.
Yeah.
So a commitment to my kids, because, you know, they think going and sitting in a conference hall in some other cities, like all the travel I do without them, so fun.
Yeah.
But so my commitment to them is we do a trip a year together. But music festivals is a big thing with my family. It always has been. My kids have been going to Blues Fest since they were 2.
That's
little bare feet babies in the field.
Yeah.
And it's been a tradition we've kind of kept going. And so actually just a couple of weeks ago, I did Stagecoach with my sister and my brother-in-law.
Nice.
We did our hoedown in California.
I love that.
And that to me, it's really become music and outdoor festivals and traveling with my kids. That's become kind of my refuel and what I look forward to. I
love that. I love it because so many of us aren't even clear on what fills our cup, right? We go through life sort of asleep at the wheel of our own life, right? Not really present to what our values are, what matters to us, what fills our cup. And when you can get clear on that, and we talk, the language we use, what if you got clear on what fills your cup, whether it be travel, music, the outdoors, whatever it may be, and then try to even turn the volume up on that like 10 or 20%.
Yeah.
Dial down the noise just a little bit and like what difference would that make?
Yeah.
It's like, I think the difference is like life is going to be both wonderful and at times horrendous. There are horrible things that happen to us at times that really knock. You said, like knock your footing, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, why not by leaning into the things that make us happy? If we did more of that, then we can approach those things from a tank that's more full as opposed to one that's empty, right? I love it. We're a big music. We'll probably bump into you at Blues Fest. We got our passes, 2 weeks ago?
I think we passed photos there last year. We missed dates, but yes, we'll go together.
Yeah.
Go.
Well, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, no, you just said, it's hard to pour, well, I'll say pour from an empty cup, right? And it's really been something that with my kids, I think about that a lot, is that, there are times where, yes, I will be a selfish mother and be like, yeah, I'm doing this trip, Stagecoach, by myself, because mom needs a refuel, right?
Yeah.
And they get that too, because it's like, I cannot pour into your cup if mine's empty. And at times, because of, the plate I carry, I take on a lot that it's sometimes, I have to do that to be able to keep everything in a balance. And I hope that it's teaching them to do it too. We talk openly about it. Yeah. And there's a term we use all the time in our house. It's choose happy, right? Yeah. In the moment, if you're trying to decide, what's the right decision, which one makes you happy?
Right.
Go and do it.
Right.
And so sometimes it means you're being a little selfish in your decision, but sometimes you need to be.
Yeah, I love that philosophy, and I actually encourage folks to not even call it selfish because it's actually the least selfish thing you can do. When I'm a big fan of what I call radical self-care, right? And that's not selfishness. That's not, completely ignoring other people's needs, not at all. But I think most of us swing so far the other way that we come last all the time. And that means we're going through life with our tank like near empty, and we're trying to be a great parent. We're trying to be a good leader. We're trying to be a good friend, all these things, but our cup is literally empty. When we focus on making sure we're good, how is that selfish when we're now showing up in all of those dimensions and more full? Yeah. We have more to give. We show up more like ourselves and more in a healthy way, and everybody benefits.
Yeah. And what a great thing to teach your kids. Like that you're showing them that, to take care of themselves, right? And that's so important because they have so much pressure on them right now, especially like with going to school. You think of all the pressure they had that we didn't have necessarily. Like I don't know if you've seen the comparisons on social media of like a 13-year-old when I was 13 and a 13-year-old now, and I'm like, holy cow. Yeah. I'm like, and I have a 13-year-old daughter, and I'm like, holy cow, right? So the pressure they have, what a great gift it is to give them to be, you know, take care of yourself, make time for yourself, take care of your mental health.
Yeah, and you know, I think about it a lot too, especially with, you know, working mothers or you know, ones that are chasing a career, and it's like you go home and it's like the laundry, the cleaning, the dishes, the dinner, the, you know, all of it. There's days I go home and I hit the couch and I just say to my kids, Mom's on empty. It was such a stressful day. Tell me what you want off Uber Eats. I'm doing nothing. Like I'm just nothing, you know, and that's so okay. It's like, you know, and they're like, all right, Mom's done. you know, other days I'm like, what an awesome day. Let's go out and do something.
But I love that approach because it's giving ourselves, you even touched on it earlier when you talked about, you're like, well, that shit is going to come. There's no way you're leaving that at home, you said, right? We've created this false dichotomy, this like Chinese wall between personal life, professional life. And even in our parenting, we often do that. Like I've got to be super mom or super dad. My kids can't see me sweat kind of thing. And the ability to be human. And I love that what I'm seeing in all of my work with leaders and organizations is more and more organizations, the ones that are savvy, sophisticated, that are really leaning into what's happening, are allowing more humanity in the workplace, allowing people just to be, as opposed to this big front that we need to project, because that requires so much energy. So the courage to go home and say, Mom's on empty, what do you want on Uber Eats, is teaching your kids it's okay to be human.
Yeah, the number of times I said to my kids, there's 3 of you, there's 1 of me. Like, I can only do so much. Figure it out.
That's why I said I had 2. I got 2 hands. I have 2 kids, you know?
Right?
It's the third, Kate. You're crazy.
Right, where are you pulling it?
I'm always losing one. Let's be honest. I don't know where they all are. Kid. I get it. I do. Okay, as we're kind of wrapping up, I'm going to throw a few rapid fires at you.
Yeah.
You ready?
Hit me.
It's not hard. Okay. If you could have a superpower, what would it be?
I was like, say something appropriate.
Or not. This is an adult show.
I'd have the ability to read minds.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. That's a great one.
I would. I would.
Yeah.
Are you firing or am I firing?
I think you're firing.
I'm going to fire all
You're
of them?
firing.
Oh my God. Okay. Yeah. Book. What's a book you'd recommend to an entrepreneur?
I'd probably go with 2 that were recommended to me. One is the 5 Dysfunctions of a Team.
Oh, great. Yeah.
Love that book.
So good.
Really taught me to accept and enjoy failure and talk about it openly so that people are not afraid to fail at work.
We actually use that. We're certified 5 behaviors coaches. So we actually go in and work with teams using that framework. So I absolutely love that model.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then the second one, Terry Matthews gave me when I started at Wesley Clover, and it's called Where's My Cheese?
Oh, it's a great book.
You got them all.
That's a great book.
Both of them. And honestly, Where Is My Cheese is about 80 pages. You can read it in a night. But it gets you thinking. And I did really enjoy that one as well.
Yeah, we'll put both of those in the show
we
notes.
will, for sure. I think I already know the answer to this, but favorite way to unwind after a hectic week?
I was like, I want to know what you think I'm going to say.
No.
Yeah, let's flip the question. What do you think the answer is?
I think you'll chill, have a glass of wine, and like
drink.
There's alcohol involved. Nothing wrong with that, but I think you're enjoying yourself. I think you're doing something to fill your cup.
I do feel, I have the greatest group of girlfriends, and they're honestly just the best supporters of mine. And I do love to get together with them. We do a lot of patios. We like our wine and Prosecco.
I have my girls. It's the same thing. I completely get it.
Yeah, and community is so important.
Community is so important.
To have people that you can just be with and
authentically you, like good or bad. Yeah.
My girlfriends threw me a brunch the other day for winning the 40 under 40.
Yeah, so
and
good.
My favorite part of that whole brunch was that all of them were like, "Congratulations! I still don't know what you do." One of them even said, "I went on your website today and
I don't understand it." Yeah.
but I'm really proud of you.
Yeah,
And I was like, yeah. Well,
Good
and
job.
I love that. I actually love that they don't get it,
No,
you know? And
but
it's like,
that's-
because it keeps us just so real with each other that there's no like,
Yeah.
you know, I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't know what you do either.
No, because you talk about life and you talk about exactly. Okay. In wrapping, it's a Living Richly podcast. So we close every show with this question. What does living richly mean to you?
Yeah. So it's interesting because I would say for me, it's still a work in progress. I do believe that a lot of things have allowed me to live more richly. You know, starting with this career journey allowed me to need to take care of myself. You know, the separation from my kid's dad really allowed the self-reflection of, you know, what happened there? Who did we become? Who am I really?
Yeah.
Losing my brother has really sort of again changed it. And so I do believe that every day I'm very conscious and making decisions that are to allow me to have a life where I feel confident in that.
Yeah.
But I would still say that, you know, it still is, and I'm happy it still is a work in progress. But I think knowing that you're forever sort of, can we all ever really stand in that and be like, I am doing it? Or is it that I am trying every day to make decisions that allow me to do it?
I love that.
I put you on the spot. Last question. This one wasn't canned or prepared.
All right, do it.
Okay, someone's listening to this show.
Yeah.
They're listening to your story, and they've been sitting waiting for a long time. They're not happy. They're not fulfilled. What would you say to them?
Personal or career?
Both.
I would say, you know, put in the work of self-reflection. What is it that you actually, you know, truly want to do? Talk to people that support you, but talk to people that don't know you. You know, if you don't have a therapist, go get one.
Right.
Really having an unopinionated view
Yeah.
is such a great perspective, because I know for me, someone, you know, would give me a piece of advice and I'd be like, you know, are they playing out these other things? Like, I love it. But after my separation, I started to go to see a therapist, and really that was an eye opener for me, where it was like, this woman doesn't know me at all.
Yeah.
You know, and so I really found myself sitting with things that she said differently. And then at the end of all that, just go do it. You know, I tell my kids every day, it's just one foot in front of another.
Yeah.
You don't have to always look 2 years out. You don't always have to look 10 years out.
Yeah.
It's not even a day at a time. It's 1 foot in front of the other.
One moment at a time. Sometimes.
And if you just keep putting 1 foot in front of the other, you will get where you're going.
Yeah,
Love it.
I love that.
Love
I
it.
love that. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for having
being
me.
on the
This was
show.
great.
And folks, you heard it here. Stop waiting. Start creating the life you've always dreamed of. Life is too short to do otherwise. As always, we remind you to like, subscribe, and share out the show so that we can spread the Living Richly message to as many people as possible. And go to our website, livingrichlly.me. You're going to find out 2 really great things there. One is information about the Living Richly Nation. That's our exclusive private Facebook group, an amazing community of people who are on this journey of living their best life, and we support each other and share our stories, and it's just been amazing. And the other is the 15-day Life Vision Challenge that was released just recently. We're getting raving reviews. Participants are getting clear on who they are, what they stand for, and it's a free experience. You can find all that information on our website. And again, thank you for tuning in every single week. We're so thrilled that you're on this journey with us. And until next week, keep living your best life.